I was walking with my fiancée. We were about to enter a cafe. A very attractive woman stopped us and asked, "Do you have 2 seconds to end world hunger?" I've stood through countless pitches like this before. Hunger brewing, annoyance escalating. But this time, something clicked. I nipped it in the bud. I smiled and said, "I never have 2 seconds to end world hunger." She was shocked. I think my fiancée was too. But she gave me the benefit of the doubt until we got inside and I explained. So what had changed? I had just finished reading Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. And once I understood what was happening in that interaction, I couldn't unsee it. That woman wasn't just asking a question. She was running a script, one optimized over decades by people who study exactly how to make you say yes. And the thing is, they're not evil. They're not even wrong. They're just very, very good at something most of us don't understand. This is going to take a while. Get comfortable. Let's start with something uncomfortable. That woman was attractive, and that wasn't random. Cialdini calls this the liking principle. We say yes to people we like, and we like people who are attractive, similar to us, or who give us compliments. Charities know this. So do car dealerships, pharmaceutical reps, and Instagram influencers. The face of the pitch is always optimized. But here's what Cialdini understood that most people miss. Knowing this doesn't make you immune. In his research, even when people were told that attractiveness was influencing their judgment, they still rated attractive people as more trustworthy. Awareness helps, but it's not armor. So when that woman stopped us, I wasn't being rude because I was cynical. I was direct because I knew I was vulnerable. And the only real defense was to exit the frame entirely. Now let's look at what she actually said. Do you have 2 seconds to end world hunger? This is a headline. And a man named David Ogilvy, who built one of the biggest advertising agencies in the world, had a rule about headlines. He said, on average, 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy. When you have written your headline, you have spent 80 cents out of your dollar. Charities learned this. That opening line isn't just a question. It's the entire pitch compressed into one sentence. Break it down with me. Do you have, not a command, a question. Commands trigger resistance. Questions trigger self-reflection. Do I have 2 seconds? Of course I do. 2 seconds. Here's the lie. The beautiful, shameless, mutually agreed upon lie. 2 seconds. That's how long it takes to blink twice, to glance at your phone, to decide you don't like someone's haircut. World hunger affects hundreds of millions of people. The causes include climate change, conflict, economic instability, infrastructure failures, political corruption, trade policies, colonial legacies, water scarcity, and countless interconnected systems. 2 seconds. You know what you can actually do in 2 seconds? Click a button. Start typing your credit card number. And that's the point. Everyone knows you're not ending world hunger. The charity knows it. You know it. So why phrase it this way? Because the headline isn't about world hunger. The headline is about you. Before Ogilvy, before Cialdini, there was a man named Claude Hopkins. In 1923, Hopkins wrote a book called Scientific Advertising. It's 90 pages long, and it changed everything. Hopkins was the first person to treat advertising like a science. He invented the coupon, not to give discounts, but to track which ads actually worked. He ran split tests before computers existed, measuring response rates down to the penny. That charity pitch you just heard? It's not a guess. It's the winner of thousands of experiments you'll never see. Every word, Every pause, every inflection has been tested and optimized. Hopkins proved something uncomfortable. What works and what should work are often completely different. Clever headlines lose to simple ones. Beautiful ads lose to ugly ones. And do you have 2 seconds to end world hunger, which sounds almost stupid when you write it down, outperforms more honest framings by a mile. Ogilvy came later. He read Hopkins religiously, called Scientific Advertising the most useful book ever written for anyone entering advertising. But where Hopkins measured, Ogilvy crafted. He understood something Hopkins only implied. People don't buy products. They buy better versions of themselves. His most famous line, "The consumer isn't a moron. She's your wife." He meant, respect the audience. They're not stupid. They're busy. They're distracted. They're making 100 decisions a day, and they need shortcuts. When you respond to that charity pitch, you're not buying rice for a village you'll never see. You're buying a version of yourself. A slightly better version. A version that, for a few moments, isn't the person who scrolls past suffering. The charity gets money. You get the feeling of moral participation. And together, you maintain a pleasant fiction. Back to Cialdini. In Influence, he identified 6 weapons of influence, psychological triggers that make people comply. That charity pitch uses almost all of them. First, reciprocity. The woman is giving you something first, a chance to be a good person. Now you feel obligated to give back. Second, commitment and consistency. If you say, "Yes, I have 2 seconds," you've made a micro-commitment. Now refusing to donate contradicts something you just said about yourself. Third, social proof. She's probably standing near a sign showing how many people have already donated today. Other people are doing this, normal people, good people. Fourth, liking. We covered this. Attractive, friendly, smiling. Fifth, authority. She's wearing a lanyard. There's a logo. This feels official, institutional, like a teacher asking you to do something. Sixth, scarcity. Just 2 seconds. Time is scarce. The opportunity to be good feels fleeting. 6 weapons, deployed in a single sentence and a smile. This isn't a criticism. It's an observation. These techniques work because they're aligned with how humans actually make decisions. A lot of our susceptibility comes from school. School teaches that there's always a right answer. Life doesn't work that way. Wicked problems don't have clean solutions. But the frame, 2 seconds to end hunger, triggers the test-taking reflex. Answer yes, be the good student. School rewards compliance and punishes reframing. We learn not to question the assignment itself. So when a charity asks a loaded question, our instinct is to engage, not to reject the frame. School builds trust in benevolent authority. Charities look institutional. They feel like teachers. We instinctively defer. Hopkins knew this in 1923. Ogilvy refined it in the 1960s. Cialdini named it in 1984. And 40 years later, the same principles are standing on street corners, asking if you have 2 seconds. Let's get to what's really being sold. It's not a donation. It's not even the feeling of helping. It's permission. Cialdini observed something he called moral licensing. After doing something good, people give themselves permission to do something less good. Donate $5? Great. Now you might feel justified in not thinking about world hunger again today, or this month, or ever. The purchased product isn't virtue. It's the right to stop caring. I did my part. That's the transaction. Most cultural narratives about individual action are structured like 2 seconds to end world hunger. Recycle to save the planet. Vote to make your voice heard. Work hard and you'll succeed. All partially true. All also misleading. The bigger lie is that systemic problems are sized to individual solutions. They aren't. Hopkins would tell you to test it. Run the numbers. Does your recycling actually move the needle? Or does it just make you feel like it does? Ogilvy would tell you the framing is the point. The feeling is the product. Cialdini would tell you that once you've committed to the identity of person who recycles, you'll defend that identity even against evidence. None of them would pretend that a single ad, a single pitch, a single donation could fix a system. The necessary truth is uncomfortable. Individual actions are mostly symbolic. Symbolic action matters, but only when it's part of collective action. And collective action is the only thing that ever changes systems. So there I was, having just said, I never have 2 seconds to end world hunger, watching this woman try to process what had happened. My fiancée, across the table from me, asked what that was about, and I explained. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. The frame she offered was false. Not maliciously. Charities need money, and this pitch works. But the question, do you have 2 seconds to end world hunger, isn't really a question. It's a trap with no dignified exit. Say yes, and you've already agreed to the fiction. Say no, and you're a monster who can't spare 2 seconds. The only honest response is to reject the frame entirely. I never have 2 seconds to end world hunger. It's true. And the truth sometimes is the only way out. When you encounter a guilt-based appeal, you have options. Comply unconsciously. Click, donate, forget. Refuse cynically. Dismiss everything as a scam. Comply consciously. Donate while understanding the psychology. Defer strategically. Research and give according to evidence. Engage politically. Address systemic roots instead of symptoms. None of these are wrong, but only some lead to meaningful impact. Knowing Hopkins, Ogilvy, and Cialdini doesn't make you immune to persuasion, but it does give you something valuable, the ability to see the frame. And once you can see it, you can choose how to respond, instead of just reacting. That headline, "Do you have 2 seconds to end world hunger?" is a lie, but it's not a malicious one. It's a shared fiction that makes certain kinds of giving possible. The problem isn't the technique. It's mistaking the fiction for reality. The solution isn't cynicism. The solution is clarity. See the manipulation. See the real need beneath it. See the limits of individual action. See the necessity of collective action. Then choose consciously. Here's what I find fascinating. These same principles, Hopkins, Ogilvy, Cialdini, they're not just how charities get you to donate. They're how every piece of persuasion works. Sales pages, political ads, even AI prompts, if you know how to use them. But that's a different video. You don't have 2 seconds to end world hunger. But you do have a life. What are you going to do with it?